Paul Tice, the Planning and Development Director for Casa Grande, and the Planning and Development Department really has 4 divisions. We have the Planning Division, the Building Division, the Housing Division, and the Code Enforcement Division. So that's essentially what we do. We work in those 4 areas: planning, building, housing, and code enforcement. In the Planning Division, we have 4 planners, 3 planners doing just processing land use applications, and 1 planner who's our senior planner who does both some long-range planning and manages our housing program. We also have 2 engineers in our Planning Division who review engineering permits and planning applications to make sure that they comply with all the engineering codes. We have some admin support staff as well in the Planning Division. On the building side, we have 2 permit techs that work our front counter. We have 3 building inspectors who are out in the field most of the time doing building inspection work. We have a building plans examiner who reviews all of the construction drawings for compliance with the building codes, and we have a building official. We also have some administrative staff supporting that work group as well. In code enforcement, we have 2 code enforcement officers that work the entire city. And then in the housing side, we have a housing specialist, housing rehabilitation specialist, and our housing manager, who also is our senior planner. In the planning area, we have sort of 3 subsets. We have long-range planning, where that might be the general plan that we prepare for the community. We have a general plan 2020 that, although it has a 10-year horizon for 2020, it really is a plan that looks at the total build-out of the city, what the city will look like when all 100 square miles are completely developed. We also have a historic preservation component to our planning program, where we work with the Historic Preservation Commission, looking at changes to structures within our historic district, as well as our other historic structures within the community. Mostly what city planning does is, on the planning program side, process land use applications. That means we might process zone changes, subdivision plats, conditional use permits, variances, those kinds of applications that authorize people to build something on their property. Once you have your planning approval in place, then you might move into our building area and apply for building permits to construct structures. And so we have permit techs who take in your building permit applications. We have a plans examiner who looks at your building drawings to make sure they comply with the construction code. And we have building inspectors who look at your development, your building as you construct it, to make sure that you're following the approved plans and all construction meets the current building and fire codes. We also process what are known as engineering permits, which really are permits to what we call do horizontal development, grading of the property, construction of retention facilities and drainage facilities on the property, installation of utility lines to service your development, and parking lot construction, that kind of horizontal construction. So we process engineering permits. Once we process the engineering permits, we don't inspect those. Those are inspected by the Public Works Department, but we do process those in conjunction with the Public Works review staff. On the housing side, we have a housing program that really has a focus of providing low-income loans and grants for owners of properties to rehab their properties. And our priority is to provide those loans and grants to low-income people, low-income families, with really priorities to families with disabilities, seniors, and households that have children with them. So we have a housing program focused on our owner-occupied rehab program. For code enforcement, we have 2 code enforcement inspectors, and what they do is look at, they investigate violations of the zoning code and public nuisance codes. So violations of the zoning code might be someone building something without a building permit. Might be someone constructing a structure that's too high or too close to the property line. It might even be someone putting up signs that were not permitted or are too large. So the two code enforcement officers, they work on making sure properties stay in compliance with the zoning requirements. They also look at public nuisance violations. And public nuisance violations are more quality of life kind of violations. They might be that there are weeds on a property or junk cars on a property or they're unsightly premises, things that are detracting from the quality of life of the neighborhoods. So they also respond to and work on public nuisance complaints as well. So that in a nutshell, I think gives you sort of the broad perspective of what the Planning and Development Department does. The mission really is to make sure that all development activities act to implement the general plan that I mentioned. You know, there is a general plan, sort of a community vision, if you will, and so our primary thrust is to make sure that every development activity that occurs in the city, all physical construction, really works towards allowing us to implement that plan and implement that vision. Really, I guess if I had to describe my job, it's really one of really coordination and making sure that the planning review and the building review and the engineering review, that they're all coordinated and sort of moving in the same direction and not conflicting with one another. So there's a lot of coordination among the various staff to make sure that that we're all working in a coordinated effort to achieve that common goal. I guess the most challenging part is that every day brings new problems. So there's really not a day that I come to the office that I'm not challenged with some kind of new problem that, although I have 30 plus years experience in this profession, you know, every day I get new challenges, different problems to solve, and that really is enjoyable for me to just try to solve those unique problems and find creative solutions. The best part of my job is seeing the results of our efforts. You know, when we work hard to have a development look a certain way, be developed a certain way, and you know, maybe try to affect the design of the development to in a certain way, to see it completed and see how it really contributes to the form of the city and adds to the value of the city and the quality of life in the city. That's really very rewarding. Everyone in my department really enjoys the contributions that they're making to the community. I think they all really enjoy just making Casa Grande a better place to live.